Good morning. On today's agenda, we have 17 nominations listed. We'll vote on 11 of them. We vote on Rebecca Tabelson, Circuit Judge, David Bragdon, Lindsay Ann Freeman, Matthew Orso, Susan Courtwright Rodriguez to be district judges in North Carolina. We'll also vote on Sarah Carter to be Director of National Drug Control Policy, and 5 nominees to be U.S. Attorney. Each of these nominees is highly qualified. I look forward to supporting each of them. We'll hold over the remaining nominees listed on the agenda. Before we go to our agenda, I want to address the surge of political violence and domestic terrorism from predominantly left-wing groups. In recent weeks, our country has been torn apart by numerous tragedies: Charlie Kirk assassination, sniper attacks, ICE facility, Texas, a vehicle attacking federal law enforcement officers, Chicago, the threatened bombing of a Catholic mass here in D.C., the murder of the former Minnesota Speaker of the Minnesota House. These are only a few of many instances of political violence, and although we don't all know all the details surrounding each event, it's obviously our country is facing a crisis. Violent crime should be met with equally strong response. Instead, we've seen judges and politicians place criminals ahead of victims. Just last week, we had a Biden-appointed judge give lenient sentence to a man who attempted to murder Justice Kavanaugh and other members of the Supreme Court for their decision in Dobbs. So what kind of a message does this send? And I hope we can all agree on this committee and people that aren't on the committee that we have to send precisely the wrong message when we don't give this the proper attention and speak up against this sort of extremist activity by political leaders. Now, we've seen horrific text messages promoting murder of Republicans, their children, police officers from the Democratic candidate for Virginia Attorney General. This is, of course, an obscene thing to be talking about. Every elected official should be willing to stand up and say it's unacceptable for a candidate for the state's chief law enforcement officer to encourage and condone that sort of violence. Now I'll go to our oversight hearing. We've repeatedly heard from Democrats that the current DOJ has diverted resources away from crime to immigration. I want to speak why that isn't true. As General Bondi testified, federal law enforcement has assisted Homeland Security in taking thousands of criminal aliens off the street, and we hear there's been less drug prosecutions. Well, of course, there are going to be less prosecutions when you're taking criminals off the streets and deporting them. Just proves how effective this administration has been in securing our borders and our country. And in regard to diverting resources, we never heard a peep from the other side when the Biden FBI used a special operation group, a unit that's reportedly supposed to deal with terrorists, to surveil and publicly arrest Peter Navarro. At the hearing, I also spoke about the Biden FBI targeting 8 Republican senators' personal cell phones for tolling data, and including senators on this very committee. This was done as part of Arctic Frost, a politically weaponized investigation. The FBI told us many of the records associated with this matter are hidden behind grand jury secrecy rules. Attorney General Bondi must take immediate steps to seek a waiver and produce those records. I urge my Democratic colleagues to join us in further uncovering this unconscionable breach of the previous administration and hold accountable those involved in that wrongdoing. I also want to address a request for the committee to hold oversight hearings on Arctic Frost and Jack Smith. We're not ready yet to do that. We've yet to receive enough records from the Justice Department. I've requested records, but the department hasn't come through with the volume needed. Before public hearings, the foundation needs to be set and strong. And I want to remind the Justice Department that this excuse they use on client privilege doesn't apply to Congress. I don't want to receive a bunch of redacted information. I want the truth and nothing but the truth, so we can be prepared for whatever follows on. Rest assured, this investigation is yielding results thanks to whistleblowers. I've done 4 public document productions about Arctic frost, starting with the information that's been made public. It's exposed historic political misconduct. As a result, the FBI is investigating, has fired agents for misconduct, and the CR-15 unit at the Washington Field Office, which originated Arctic frost, has been shut down by this administration. So there's already been accountability because of Director Patel, and I would expect more to come. But once we get the information from the FBI, it seems to get lost in the bureaucracy at DOJ, and I want that red tape cut so we can get this information, make it public.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. This week in my home state of Illinois, President Trump deployed the Texas National Guard over the objection of our governor. To my Republican colleagues, how would you react if a Democratic president deployed the National Guard from any state into your state over the objections of your governor? Imagine masked Border Patrol agents in military tactical gear marching through your state's largest city. As a top Border Patrol official bragged, the agents were arresting people based on, quote, how they look. Imagine if federal agents rappelled from Black Hawk helicopters to swarm an apartment building in your state, breaking down doors, yanking people out of bed, zip tying and detaining U.S. citizens, your constituents, including children for ours, including American citizens. Imagine if federal agents pointed an assault rifle at one of your constituents, simply taking a picture. If they fired pepper balls at a minister who was praying on the street and a reporter who was simply driving past a protest site doing her job. Imagine if they tear gassed not just peaceful protesters in your community, but local law enforcement. This is the reality in my home state of Illinois at this moment. I don't believe a single one of us finds it tolerable to consider the conduct of this administration toward my state. Let me be clear. What's happening in my state of Illinois is unprecedented, unnecessary, and an unlawful abuse of power that should offend all of us. Oh, there goes that Democratic senator again. He must hate Donald Trump. Well, I can tell you there was a press conference before the National Guard arrived, called by the business leaders in my state, condemning the delegation of the Guard to Illinois. In deploying the National Guard to my state, President Trump has disregarded our Constitution's system of federalism embodied in the 10th Amendment, which reserves powers to the state that are not expressly delegated to the federal government. That used to be a common question from the Republican side. Now, radio silence. Chicago does not need, quote, be saved, as Kash Patel claimed in a tweet yesterday. We need the federal government to stop engaging in political theater and baselessly, recklessly escalating a situation in Illinois. Don't take it just from me. According to a sworn statement by Thomas Mills, police chief in Broadview, Illinois, DHS agents told the Broadview police that DHS would bring a, quote, excuse me for saying it, shit show to Broadview, including increased use of tear gas and pepper spray. Chief Mills said, quote, over the course of my career in law enforcement, the way in which federal agents have indiscriminately used chemical agents in Broadview is unlike anything I've seen before. This committee claims to support the police. Where is our concern for police officers in my state who are being tear gassed and prevented from protecting the communities they serve? I also want to address another issue, and that was a hearing this week with the Attorney General. This week, I asked the Attorney General a simple question. What is the legal basis for the deployment of the National Guard in Illinois? Think that question was out of line? Obviously, she did. She refused to answer. Instead, she launched irrelevant and baseless personal attacks against me. She said my question proved that I hated Donald Trump, asking what the legal basis was for sending National Guard troops to my state. She suggested I was influenced by donations from a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, Reid Hoffman. She used his name. Well, I checked my staff records. I've never received a dime from Mr. Hoffman, have no idea who he is. It was just a talking point to avoid answering my question. The Attorney General's stonewalling in response to the most basic oversight questions was not limited to me. Instead of answers, she responded to legitimate questions with prepared attacks and smears on other Democratic senators. None of my Republican colleagues would ever accept such contempt from a Democratic administration. As I said then and say again, I've been a member of this committee for more than 20 years. Never have I encountered a witness from any other administration, Democrat or Republican, responding to legitimate questions from these types of personal attacks. This administration is trampling over the separation of powers. Do we hear anything from the other side of the dais? We cannot allow the disrespect the Attorney General has shown for this committee's constitutional oversight authority to continue. Let me say on a personal note, too, it was my honor to be the chairman of this committee for 4 years. I tried to be fair. There were a couple times when things broke down. The 2-hour rule was imposed in situations that I thought was unfair. We have never done that to you, but it was done to me several times. I tried to work things out and be fair. And let me tell you how I ran the clock, and I really say to the newer members of the committee, I hope you'll hear me when I say this. The 5-minute standard is a good one, and the chairman, Grassley, is trying to impose it as I did too. My standard approach was to give people 5 minutes, tap the gavel, and at 6 minutes, vocally interrupt them. That was the way I worked at 6 minutes. And if they were in the middle of a question, I let them finish. That's not unreasonable. In fact, I think it's fair. I hope you'll consider the same standard when you preside. Chairman Grassley, I urge you to work with us to press this administration to provide substantive answers to our legitimate oversight questions. Otherwise, why are we here? I did that for you and your Republican colleagues when I was chair, and I hope you'll do the same.
Mr. Chairman.
Let me explain something before. We're going to lose a quorum at 11:05. I've worked with the Democrats that they will give their speeches afterwards. And they've accommodated me so we can get as many of these nominees out as possible. Now, if people want to speak about the nominees, I suppose we should do that, but I hope other things will let go.
Mr. Chairman.
I just want to correct the record real quickly. The ranking member mentioned that this is unprecedented. It's not. Actually, President Eisenhower sent the 104th Airborne and National Guard in to make sure black kids could go to school with white kids in Arkansas when another Democrat governor was defying federal law. So I would hope that J.B. Pritzker would care as much about our security and the citizens of Chicago as he does about hating Trump. So it's not unprecedented. When you're defying federal law, the president has certain authorities, and I think the ranking member, who's my friend, knows that.
Let me just say that I think if we don't tone down our rhetoric and all involved do the same, we're never going to end this spiral of hate that is taking part in American politics. To come before the committee as you have, Senator, and to say that the violence, political violence, is all on one side, as you said, BS, I disagree with you.
Well, since you asked, we're going to have a report, and I asked Attorney General Bondi to take a look at that.
Political
to take a look at
violence-
left-wing political violence, because I'm not
oughta-
backing down that this is not a both sides thing. It really isn't.
In fairness, we should have both sides investigated. There should be political violence, no political violence.
I would agree with that, but let's not lie about what's happening.
Okay, let's, you heard what I said. Can we go to voting now? Okay, we'll now turn to,
Something's going wrong with the mic. Is that, oh, there, back on again. My light is just on. I think you can hear me. I just wanted to be recognized on the Seventh Circuit nominee, and I wanted to confirm with the chairman that we have an understanding that comments relating to the judges will be heard before we vote on them, but that other comments, we have offered you the courtesy of postponing until after the votes, and that the committee will remain open so that we can make our comments at that time. Is that correct?
speak on the judge you want to speak on,
And the other part is correct as well?
and you want to speak.
Yep. Very quickly today, we're going to vote on
Oh,
Brian.
here, I called on White House.
Oh, I'm
and then
sorry.
I'll
Go
get
ahead.
you-
Yeah, go ahead.
Just on the Seventh Circuit nominee, we are in a downward spiral in this committee, it seems to me, in which the Republican majority, when you have the majority, takes liberties with the traditional norms and procedures of the committee. And then when the shoe is on the other foot and we follow the new rule established by the Republicans, there is outrage that we have done this. And I say this in the context of this committee unilaterally yielding to the executive branch our circuit court blue slip. The Seventh Circuit judge is coming without a blue slip from one of the Wisconsin senators. We have seats on circuit courts that are associated with our states, and customarily, for years, for decades, senators had the ability to make recommendations to the president on those circuit court nominees. The Republican majority decided to end that, and when we followed on, we heard bitter objections from Republican senators when we took the same step. So now we're back again, and we have a Seventh Circuit nominee associated with the state of Wisconsin, with the Wisconsin senator being completely rolled in that matter. This is one of many instances of the degradation of this committee, but I think that just as a general proposition, when senators are handing back to the executive branch a power as significant as a blue slip on a circuit court nominee, and with respect to the recent Delaware nominee, there's no longer even necessarily a real connection to the state, let alone an approval by the state senator. It, to me, makes no sense that we as a body would throw that power away. And I make this point now on this person because sooner or later, the winds will shift and the gavel will shift. And I want to make it loud and clear that if you really want to go back to a time when senators' input is respected on circuit court nominees at the White House, this makes that nearly impossible.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
I'm going to call on the ranking.
I would like to respond to that and
You'll get
correct
your
the
chance to-
record
Can we vote
of what Mr. Whitehouse has said, because this is something under President Biden that happened to Senator Hagerty and me not once but twice. And you're correct that there is not consultation, and I know you don't like that now. And I see that Senator Durbin's staff is trying to inform him, but I will remind them, we corrected the record when this occurred and told you all you needed to stop pushing forward these judges without working with us. So shoes on the other foot.
I plead with my Republican colleagues, if we want to get these nominations out, I said I would stay afterwards to hear anything you wanted to say. Senator Durbin.
I will be brief. I want to associate myself with the remarks of Senator Whitehouse on the blue slip. When I chaired the committee, I did my best to honor the blue slip, and I was criticized on the left. Now that the worms have turned, or whatever you want to say, I'm being criticized on the right. We need more blue slip, they say. I just have to say it should apply in both circumstances.
Now the remarks by Senator Graham.
Very quickly, today we're going to vote on Brian Sterling to be the U.S. Attorney for the District of South Carolina. I've known Brian for a long time. He graduated from the University of South Carolina School of Law. He was Nikki Haley's Chief of Staff. He was Assistant Attorney General in our state and spent 12 years in charge of the Department of Corrections, and he's in an interim status. I think he's just a really great choice, and urge our members to vote for him if you can.
Okay, we got 25 minutes to get out these nominations, so the clerk will call the roll on Rebecca Tableson.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Cruz.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley.
Aye.
Mr. Tillis.
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy. Aye. Mrs. Blackburn. Aye. Mr. Smith. Aye. Mrs. Britt. Aye. Mrs. Moody. Aye. Mr. Durbin.
No.
Mr. Whitehouse.
No.
Ms. Klobuchar. No. Mr. Coons.
No by proxy.
No by proxy.
Mr. Blumenthal.
No by proxy.
Ms. Sorono.
No by proxy.
Mr. Booker.
No by proxy.
Mr. Padilla.
No by proxy.
Mr. Welch.
No by proxy.
Mr. Schiff. No. Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 12, the nays are 10.
The note, the nominee will be favorably reported. Now we go to David A. Bragdon. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Cruz.
Oh, aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley.
Aye.
Mr. Tillis.
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy. Mrs. Blackburn. Mr. Schmidt. Mrs. Britt. Mrs. Moody. Mr. Durbin.
No.
Mr. Whitehouse.
No.
Ms. Klobuchar. No. Mr. Coons.
No by proxy.
No by proxy.
Mr. Blumenthal.
No by proxy.
Ms. Sorono.
No by proxy.
Mr. Booker.
No by proxy.
Mr. Padilla.
No by proxy.
Mr. Welch.
No by proxy.
Mr. Schiff. No. Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 12, the nays are 10.
David Bragdon will be favorably reported. Now we go to Lindsay Ann Freeman. Clerk will call the roll. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Cruz.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley. Mr. Tillis.
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy. Mrs. Blackburn. Mr. Schmidt. Mrs. Britt. Mrs. Moody. Mr. Durbin.
Aye.
Mr. Whitehouse.
Aye.
Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Coons.
No by proxy.
Mr. Blumenthal.
No by proxy.
Ms. Sorono.
No by proxy.
Mr. Booker.
No by proxy.
Mr. Padilla.
No by proxy.
Mr. Welch.
No by proxy.
Mr. Schiff. No. Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 15, the nays are 7.
Lindsay Freeman will be reported. Now we go to Matthew Orsel. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Cruz.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley. Mr. Tillis. Mr. Kennedy.
Aye.
Mr. Whitehouse.
Aye.
Ms. Klobuchar.
No.
Mr. Coons.
No by proxy.
Mr. Blumenthal.
No by proxy.
Ms. Arono.
No by proxy.
Mr. Booker.
No by proxy.
Mr. Padilla.
No by proxy.
Mr. Welch.
No by proxy.
Mr. Schiff.
No.
Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 14, the nays are 8.
Matthew Orso will be reported to the floor. Now Susan Courtright Rodriguez. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Cruz.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley.
Aye.
Mr. Tillis.
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy.
Aye.
Mrs. Blackburn. Aye. Mr. Schmidt.
Aye.
Mrs. Britt. Aye. Mrs. Moody. Aye. Mr. Durbin.
Aye.
Mr. Whitehouse.
Aye.
Ms. Klobuchar.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye by proxy.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Blumenthal.
No by proxy.
Ms. Arono.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Booker.
No by proxy.
Mr. Padilla.
No by proxy.
Mr. Welch.
No by proxy.
Mr. Schiff.
No.
Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 17, the nays are 5.
Susan Courtright Rodriguez will be reported to the House or the Senate floor. Sarah Carter Bailey, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Oh,
statement.
yes, there's a speaker here, Senator Durbin.
Mr. Chairman, Sarah Carter Bailey is the latest loyalist nominated to the position for which she is totally, wholly unqualified. She is not a physician or addiction specialist. She has never been a prosecutor nor a law enforcement official. Prior to June of 2025, she had never worked for the government. So who exactly is she? Ms. Carter Bailey calls herself an investigative journalist. But even Fox News executives told Sean Hannity not to use that title because her reporting was unreliable. Like so many Trump nominees, Ms. Carter Bailey's main qualification is her loyalty to the president. She has attacked Democrats and Republicans who disagree with him and called for impeaching judges who rule against him. But when it comes to President pardoning drug kingpins and January 6 rioters, she toes the line. She strongly supports the administration's nonsensical budget cuts to programs and apparently is confused about that. She is not qualified for this job, and I will be voting no.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Cruz.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley. Mr. Tillis.
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy. Mrs. Blackburn. Aye. Mr. Schmidt. Mrs. Britt. Aye. Mrs. Moody. Mr. Durbin.
No.
Mr. Whitehouse.
No.
Ms. Klobuchar.
No.
Mr. Coons.
No by proxy.
No by proxy.
Mr. Blumenthal.
No by proxy.
Ms. Arono.
No by proxy.
Mr. Booker.
No by proxy.
Mr. Padilla.
No by proxy.
Mr. Welch.
No by proxy.
Mr. Schiff.
No.
Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 12, the nays are 10.
Sarah Carter Bailey will now be reported to the Senate.
Mr.
We
Chairman?
have now Braden Busick.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak on Braden Busack for just a moment. And we know that with his nomination, President Trump is continuing to push forward very well qualified judges. He has been an assistant U.S. attorney in both Memphis and Nashville. He's been a prosecutor for the state of Tennessee and an assistant attorney general and an assistant DA. He has prosecuted hundreds of cases ranging from organized crime and drug trafficking offenses to terrorism and immigration. He currently serves as Vice President of Litigation at Southeastern Legal Foundation, where he focuses every single day on the protection of the American people's constitutional rights. I urge a yes vote.
Clerk will call the roll on Braden Busick.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley? Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy? Mrs. Blackburn? Mr. Schmidt? Mrs. Britt? Mrs. Moody? Mr. Durbin?
No.
Mr. Whitehouse?
Nope.
Ms. Klobuchar?
No.
Mr. Coons?
No by proxy.
Mr. Blumenthal?
No by proxy.
Ms. Hirono?
No by proxy.
Mr. Booker?
No by proxy.
Mr. Padilla?
No by proxy.
Mr. Welch?
No by proxy.
Mr. Schiff?
No.
Chairman Grassley?
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 12, the nays are 10.
Braden Busick will be reported to the floor of the Senate. Now we call on Dominic Grace II, U.S. Attorney, Ohio. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Cornish?
Aye.
Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Cruz?
Oh, aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley? Mr. Tillis? Mr. Kennedy? Blackburn? Mr. Schmidt? Mrs. Britt? Mrs. Moody? Mr. Durbin?
Aye.
Mr. Whitehouse?
Nope.
Ms. Klobuchar?
No.
Mr. Coons?
No. Aye by proxy.
Mr. Blumenthal?
No by proxy.
Ms. Hirono?
No by proxy.
Mr. Booker?
No by proxy.
Mr. Padilla?
No by proxy.
Mr. Welch?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Schiff?
No by proxy.
Chairman Grassley?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to be an aye on that one.
Did the clerk hear Senator Klobuchar?
Got it. On this vote, the ayes are 16, the nays are 7.
Yeah.
Nope, sorry, 16-6. Thank you.
Dominic Grace II will be reported to the floor. I have Senator Cruz wanted a statement in the record, and I'm going to put that in at this point. The next nominee is Jerome Gorgon, Jr., Eastern District, Michigan. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Cornish?
Aye.
Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Cruz?
Oh, aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley? Mr. Tillis?
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy? Mrs. Blackburn? Mr. Schmidt? Mrs. Britt? Mrs. Moody? Mr. Durbin?
Aye.
Mr. Whitehouse?
Aye.
Ms. Klobuchar?
Aye.
Mr. Coons?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Blumenthal?
No by proxy.
Ms. Hirono?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Booker?
No by proxy.
Mr. Padilla?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Welch?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Schiff?
Aye by proxy.
Chairman Grassley?
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 21.
Jerome Gorgon, Jr. will be reported to the floor. Now we call on Brian Sterling, South Carolina.
Sorry, Chairman.
Oh,
The vote.
I'm sorry.
The ayes are 20 and the nays, sorry about that. Sorry. The ayes are 20 and the nays are 1.
Okay,
2, please. Now,
You-
sorry.
you've heard the correction. Now we're going to Brian Sterling, U.S. Attorney, South Carolina. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Cornish?
Aye.
Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Cruz?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley?
Aye.
Mr. Tillis?
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy? Mrs. Blackburn? Mr. Schmidt? Mrs. Britt? Mrs. Moody? Mr. Durbin?
Aye.
Mr. Whitehouse?
Aye.
Ms. Klobuchar?
Aye.
Mr. Coons?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Blumenthal?
No by proxy.
Ms. Hirono?
No by proxy.
Mr. Booker?
No by proxy.
Mr. Padilla?
No by proxy.
Mr. Welch?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Schiff?
No by proxy.
Chairman Grassley?
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 17
Okay, Brian Sterling will be reported to the Senate. Before we vote on the last nominee, I said I'd stay for any speeches to be made, both Republican and Democrat, but I hope some of my Republicans will stay around not only to speak, but to listen to what's got to be said afterwards, yeah. Now we're going to vote on Thomas Wheeler II for Indiana Southern District. Clerk will call the roll.
Who is this one, Mr. Chairman?
Thomas Wheeler II for Indiana.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Hawley.
Aye.
Mr. Tillis.
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy. Aye. Mrs. Blackburn. Aye. Mr. Schmidt. Mrs. Britt. Aye. Mrs. Moody. Aye. Mr. Durbin.
Nope.
Mr. Whitehouse.
No.
Ms. Klobuchar.
No.
Mr. Coons.
No by proxy?
Mr. Blumenthal.
No by proxy?
Mr. Rono.
No by proxy?
Did you get
Mr.
it?
Booker.
No by proxy?
Did you
Mr.
get it?
Padilla.
No by proxy?
Mr. Welch.
This won't work.
No by proxy?
Mr. Schiff.
No by proxy?
Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 12, the nays are 10.
Thomas Wheeler will be reported. Now we call on Senator Whitehouse.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make 2 points. The first has to do with Arctic frost and the information, Chairman, that you released the other day. It's been described as a politically weaponized investigation, but I ask my colleagues, should there have been no investigation of the raiding and the ransacking of the United States Capitol? Of course there should have been an investigation. And by the way, I was with many of you during those dark hours, and there was no doubt in anybody's mind in the Senate at that point that crimes had been committed and that they needed to be investigated. So please, let's not pretend that the fact that the FBI investigated the raiding and the ransacking of the United States Capitol is itself in any way politically weaponized. That is their job. To the question of senators being in the list of toll record investigations, I'm eager to get to the bottom of that. I think we should get to the bottom of that. But let's remember what this was. This was toll records, which for those of us who've been prosecuting for a while is similar to a pen register, which is where in the old days the phone company would clip a register onto the wire, and you wouldn't know what was said. You would only know what number called what other number and for how long. When you have what prosecutors would call predication, to put a pen register on one number, you necessarily pick up everybody else who was called. That doesn't make them the subjects of any investigation. Similarly, if you're running a wiretap, and by the way, a pen register is not a wiretap, and senators on this committee should be knowledgeable and scrupulous enough not to confuse the two. But were this a wiretap, the same thing would take place. If, as U.S. Attorney, I got a wiretap on a Rhode Island mobster, and that mobster called the butcher, the baker, or the babysitter, the butcher, the baker, or the babysitter are now swept into the investigation by virtue of having been called. It doesn't make them the subject of any investigation. And with wiretaps, it works that you have minimization procedures, so you shut it off and so forth. So, but this wasn't a wiretap. This was toll records, the modern equivalent of a pen register that only shows who was called. So before we start to reach irate conclusions about weaponized FBIs going after people, it is worth taking a calming step back to consider the possibility that the FBI had proper predication for certain phones, and that those phones then called the senators. I don't know what happened, and I support the chairman's desire to investigate this. But we should investigate this without reaching dire conclusions before we have the evidence. Because there is a very clear investigative scenario in which the FBI has proper predication to get toll records, or in the old days, a pen register on a investigative target's phone, and then necessarily everyone the target called comes into the toll record, comes into the pen register. That's just how it works. That's what investigations are supposed to do. And if there's proper predication, you then go to the second step to see if there's a basis for investigation of the person at the other end of the call. So let's just understand that we shouldn't be drawing a lot of irate conclusions before we know what the facts are in the context of how such investigations actually work. Here's the second thing, and this goes back to the ranking member's comments about yesterday. To me, yesterday was an awful day in the history of this committee. It set new low after new low after new low. And I'm not going to talk about all of the new lows. I'm going to talk about one in particular. And that is whether anybody noticed the irony that the day before the United States Department of Justice arraigned a former FBI director for allegedly making untruthful statements to this committee, the Attorney General of the United States sat right there and made untruthful statements to this committee. And they weren't maybe untruthful statements. This wasn't a question of nuance. She made allegations about the ranking member and me having received political contributions from some, she said, Epstein close confidant. Well, guess what? That's actually checkable. There's a thing called the Federal Election Commission. The Federal Election Commission keeps a website that tracks all of our contributions. An intern at the Department of Justice could have checked to see that the allegation, I'll leave it to myself, that I had received campaign contributions from this individual, that was false. And it's not a maybe answer, it's a yes or no. Did I or didn't I? And there's an unimpeachable record that shows that what she said sitting right there was not true. If we are going to care about untruthful statements made by the Department of Justice and the FBI in this committee, let's not have this be yet another area where there are different rules for one party than for the other party. And just by the way, on that very subject, the other thing that the Attorney General did sitting right there was to strip all cover away from the untruthful statements that had been made to this committee by the current FBI director. You all heard him here. He said that he couldn't tell us about his grand jury testimony in the Mar-a-Lago case, where he first pled the Fifth, then got immunity, and then testified. He couldn't tell us what he testified to, he said, because the Department of Justice had sealed the testimony and because there was a court order barring him from doing that. And he actually identified which judge, the chief judge of the DC Federal District Court. Well, guess what? We know that since then, the chief judge of the Federal District Court has said that that was not true. He said specifically nothing prevented Director Patel from discussing his grand jury testimony. And yesterday, the Attorney General had the chance to say, you're right. We did seal the testimony in that matter. The Department of Justice did seal the testimony, and Patel's statement was true. Not about the court order, but at least it was sealed by the Department of Justice. She didn't say that. So now both his testimony that the DOJ had sealed his testimony and his testimony there was a court order barring his testimony are kind of demonstrably false statements to this committee. And then when he came back and we challenged him on those false statements, his second false statement was to say, I'm not going to answer any of those questions because my transcript of the grand jury testimony, I've worked with the DOJ to see that it is publicly released. Well, it either has been publicly released or it hasn't. It's a very simple distinction, yes or no. And we all know that it has not, in fact, been publicly released. And when we asked about that from the Attorney General, again, she left him high and dry and refused to say that anything had been publicly released, that there was any publicly released transcript. So yesterday stands in really stark contrast, I should say the day before yesterday stands in really stark contrast to yesterday. Yesterday, an FBI director was arraigned for making a false statement. The day before that, the Attorney General of the United States made arguably even falser statements. We'll see how the other case turns out. And she left the current FBI director completely exposed on his multiple false statements that his grand jury testimony in the Mar-a-Lago case had been sealed by the department, was under court order not to be released, and had since been publicly released as a transcript. I don't know if this committee is going to take itself seriously enough to treat false statements to this committee as serious matters, irrespective of who made them. But the contrast is really stark. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, before you go, I'd like to add, on the first point you made, I'd like to add, not subtract from anything you said, but add to it what I know we're following up on the information that you want us to follow up on. At least you said you wanted us to get the backing of what happened when 8 Republican senators' phone records. I think the FBI is cooperating very well with us. I think we're getting and still going to get more. Then it goes to the Department of Justice. I want the Department of Justice to get over this stuff that's got to go through a dozen levels of review before it ever is given to the Congress of the United States. And that's kind of where we are. But I also want to add that what I know is emails show that political bias infected the origins of the investigation. There's no basis to get the toll records from senators. I see it from the emails that I've seen, and I've gotten these from whistleblowers, so they haven't had to go through the bureaucracy I just told about at DOJ. I think it shows that the Arctic Frost was a fishing expedition. I put out enough records to prove that, just for adding to what your concerns are, and I'm not objecting to your legitimacy about the investigation of January 6th. I'm talking about the subpoenaing of 92 Republican or conservative organizations, and then the 8 senators. I think that kind of proves that it's a fishing expedition in addition to the legitimacy of what you said about January 6th. Senator Cornyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Imagine my surprise when Senate Democrats are attempting to resurrect a long-rejected idea associated with slavery in the early days of the United States of America, that state and local officials can nullify federal law. That's what the governor of Illinois, that's what the mayor of Chicago is advocating, that somehow state and local laws and the decisions made by state and local law enforcement nullify federal law enforcement efforts. It is, I think it's an indication of how desperate they become to try to justify the violence that's been directed toward ICE agents seeking to enforce our immigration laws, and the National Guard that's been deployed by the state of Texas, for example, to help protect the citizens of Illinois and protect federal property and protect and enforce federal law. So I know the ranking member said he didn't hear any justification for the use of this, but every high school civics student knows, I would hope, that under the Constitution, Article 6, federal law is the law of the land. And that is what these federal officers are doing, being deployed to places around the country like Chicago, where local and state officials simply refuse to provide for protection of federal law enforcement officers enforcing federal law. It is, I'm shocked that they would want to be associated with a doctrine of nullification that was first advocated by the states' rights advocates back in the run-up to the Civil War on behalf of protecting the institution of slavery. It is it obviously demonstrates that something else is going on here, because I know all of the members of this committee certainly know at least as much as a high school civics student knows about the supremacy of federal law under the United States Constitution. So something else must be at play here. And while they say, well, their reaction to all this isn't because they hate President Trump, it also seems to me to be a rejection not only of federal law and the constitutional authority given to the to federal authorities to enforce that law, but also a repudiation and a rejection of the election of President Trump, who was elected in large part on the basis that the Biden administration had opened the borders of the United States to untold numbers of individuals, some of whom came here for reasons we all understand, for a better life. Others came here to commit crimes and attack and assault and kill even American citizens, like Laken Riley. And we've seen the flood of illegal drugs coming across the border as a result of these policies. And now President Trump is trying to fulfill his mandate given on November the 5th last year to clean up the mess created by the Biden administration's lawless policies, including the repatriation or deportation of roughly 282,000 individuals who have final orders of deportation. There's no question of due process there. They've had their process, and they are under final orders of deportation. So what I understand our Democratic colleagues to be saying is not only can local and state officials nullify federal law, but they can also reject the mandate of the voters who elected this president based on his promise to enforce federal law, unlike the previous administration. So I thought the Attorney General was quite clear when she said the Constitution is the law of the land. Federal law needs to be enforced by federal officials wherever there is an effort to break federal law or to destroy federal property. So I think the authority is absolutely crystal clear. And you have to wonder, based on the fact that members of this committee are smart, knowledgeable individuals, certainly who understand the Constitution and the role of the Supremacy Clause under the federal Constitution, that there must be something else at play here. And I suggest it's just politics and an effort to appease their radical base who doesn't believe that we ought to enforce the law, including our immigration laws, and that it's okay to attack federal law enforcement officials like Immigration and Customs Enforcement when they are enforcing federal law, as has happened in Texas 4 different times since June, resulting in the death of even some of the detainees that they purport to be defending. So I think it's clear that there's something else at play here. Everybody can reach their own conclusion, but it certainly isn't any basis in law that would allow local and state officials to nullify federal law and the enforcement efforts by federal law enforcement officials. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Durbin and Senator Schiff. Go ahead, Senator Durbin.
Mr. Chairman, a president is limited by the Constitution and the law. The fact that he is the supreme voice in the land under the Constitution does not give him the authority to do things without legal authorization. That question has been raised in the state of Oregon, and the conclusion is that the president overstepped when he sent the National Guard into Oregon and tried to federalize them in that situation. It takes more than a tweet, more than a press conference, more than a rally. It takes the law to authorize the president to do these things. That is being tested in the courts in Illinois even today. Let me also say that I attempted to ask that basic question, the legal authority of the president to federalize the National Guard and send them into the state without the approval of the governor, and she refused to answer. That's when she said, I must hate Donald Trump to ask such a question. It's not a hate or love situation, it's just a question of the law, and still is. The point I want to make as well is that there is a false narrative here that this is all about the litany. You remember the litany, you heard it many times. Murderers, rapists, terrorists, people engaged in sexual predatory crimes, basically those who are involved in the most heinous crimes were coming into this country and needed to be stopped. And that supposedly is what we're stopping now. Tuesday, September 30th, this group in Chicago decided to assault a building in the middle of the night, 2200 block of South Shore Drive. Some 43 people were rousted out of bed. They broke down their doors, brought their children out with the ties on their hands, and held them for interrogation. They did not know in advance who was in there, nor suspect any particular individuals. No information on that score. It's the kind of outrageous conduct by this force, wherever their inspiration may be, that has turned a lot of people against the supposed effort by the president to make Chicago safer. And I might add, business leaders have asked that the National Guard not be sent into our state. It's going to hurt business, it's going to hurt tourism, and it's totally, totally unnecessary. So this isn't a question of civil wars and Reconstruction and the Constitution. It's the question is whether we're a nation of laws. Today, the court in Chicago will make that decision. I hope they rule as the court in Oregon did. I yield.
Senator Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the advantages of being the junior most member of the committee on our side of the aisle is you get to listen to everything that's gone on before you during the course of a hearing. And I want to add my voice to my colleagues who have raised the concern about what happened yesterday. I listened to my ranking member ask a legitimate oversight question about the legal basis for troops to be rappelling from a Black Hawk helicopter for a military-style assault on an apartment building in a major city, the zip tying of children,
what was the legal basis for this? I heard my ranking member ask that very simple question, that completely appropriate question. If that's not an appropriate oversight question, I don't know what an appropriate oversight question is. And the response was not just to refuse to answer the question, but it was to attack the character of the ranking member and to insult him. And then when it was Senator Whitehouse's turn to ask a question, he asked a very legitimate oversight question about a FBI undercover operation in which reportedly $50,000 was paid to the White House border czar prior to him becoming the White House border czar, but with the expectation that he would be helpful in arranging contracts when he became the White House border czar. What happened to the money? A perfectly legitimate oversight question. And rather than answer that question in a closed investigation, not an open investigation, but a closed investigation, she simply attacked Senator Whitehouse personally. And I heard another one of my colleagues ask, what was the legal basis for blowing up ships in the Caribbean? Reportedly, the Justice Department wrote an opinion justifying blowing up ships in the Caribbean. A perfectly legitimate oversight question, and the response was another personal attack. These, what were apparently canned, written personal attacks in advance. I wouldn't bother with the attacks on me. I've grown all too accustomed to them for the last 8 years. But if members of this committee can't ask those serious questions and get serious answers, we can't do oversight. I'm new to this committee. I spent about a decade on the House Judiciary Committee. I never saw a hearing like this with a cabinet officer, and if I did and some Democratic cabinet officer were to personally attack each of my Republican colleagues, I would call for a stop to it. It would be disgraceful. And I understand the reluctance to criticize on your side of the aisle one of the Republican cabinet members. But if this becomes the template for future hearings, we won't be able to do any oversight, and things will just degenerate. These questions deserve answers. I would expect that if troops were rappelling from helicopters in any city, in any of your states, and hog-tying children, you would want to know the legal basis. And so would I. We are going to submit for the record in written form the questions that the Attorney General refused to answer. I would hope, Mr. Chairman, you would join us in submitting those questions. They will have a much better chance of being answered if you join us in submitting those questions. But I would hope also in the future that if a witness, rather than respond, simply attacks our members, that it be stopped. That the witness be instructed to either answer the question or to state why they're refusing to answer the question, but to refrain from personal attacks on the members of this committee. That would be my request. And Mr. Chairman, I'm really grateful to be on this committee. And I appreciate every interaction I've had with you. You have, in our personal interactions, always been eminently fair. If I didn't think that you were of that character, I wouldn't even raise this because there wouldn't be a point. But I would ask that we not have another hearing like that one, and that you join in our legitimate oversight request. And with that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I thought that I set the decorum for a hearing, oversight hearing, when I said before we asked the director of the FBI any questions or any statements, that we should, both sides, treat each other with respect. And I even said to Patel, if you don't get a chance to answer your questions, I'll give you an opportunity after the senator's finished for a few minutes to respond whatever you didn't get a chance to say. And you know how that meeting turned out. And particularly from your side of the aisle, a lot of strong statements about the FBI director. Whether they were legitimate or not is beside the point. it didn't follow the decorum, and obviously the director of the FBI didn't follow the decorum. So I don't know what more I can do than plead with my people who are fellow senators to follow a certain decorum, and I assume it would be followed on the other side. I don't appreciate the insults that went to Democrat members, particularly where they were wrong, but after seeing how senators handled the FBI director, I guess I felt that just let the show go on the way the senators wanted to go on. And that's what developed as a result of it. That may be a weak excuse for what happened that day, but I thought things didn't work out the way I expected them to when the FBI director was here, and some of the people on your side of the aisle were some of the ones that were screaming and yelling and talking over the FBI director. Meeting adjourned.